Welcome to the Pride of Detroit PODcast, prideofdetroit.com, Pride of Detroit on X, Pride of Detroit on Facebook, Pride of Detroit on Blue Sky. You know where to find us. You know where we're at. We're always bringing you the best Detroit Lions. News, coverage, analysis, and chicanery 24/7, 375 days a year. Even on the 10 days you didn't even know existed. That's right. I am Chris Perfett, the adequate host at Chris Perfett on X, at Perfett on Blue Sky. And today on the Pride of Detroit PODcast, Jeremy and I talked last episode about the schedule and our expectations for it. Now we're going to recap, and we'll have our third man along as well to bring his own thoughts, as now that we have the full tasty schedule in front of us. We're also going to be talking a little bit about what some coaches had to say this week, as we got some press conferences and a lot of other Lions news. But first, Jeremy Reisman, the fearless leader at Detroit Online. Hi, buddy.
What's up, fellas? Good to see the whole crew back again. I know the podcast feed was a little late last week, so I'm excited to get back into the swing of things. Swing of things.
Yeah, I know. I keep promising certain things too, and it's just been we are all busy in our own ways as this summer starts to ramp up a little bit.
Well, last week was just weird in that we got like an hour and a half of press conferences, then the schedule release, and then another hour and a half of press conferences the next day. So for off-season weeks, that was a weirdly busy one. So that's why we didn't do our midweek mailbag, but we'll get back to all that.
In previous episodes, we also talked about the rule proposals that are happening. By the time you hear it, this is probably done. The two big ones among those proposals, the Lions one is back to change the seeding in the NFL playoffs from preference to division winners to just overall record. I'm still not sure that's going to get passed, but if it does, you can always just at me and tell me I'm an idiot. The other one is about flag football, which I don't think is within the scope of this podcast.
Plus the tush push.
What?
Of course.
Oh, and the tush push, of course. But I was, okay. To help us understand these things, let's bring our flag football expert, Ryan Matthews. At Ryan_POD. Hi, Ryan.
I honestly thought you bringing up the flag football thing was you like knocking the tush push. Like, oh, you want to get rid of the tush push? Might as well just play flag football then. Do you know that we are actually closer to the end of last year's football season than we are to the beginning of next year's football season?
Why would you say
Interesting.
Did you say that just to hurt me?
Well, no, because Karen in the chat was like, man, can't wait. Can't like football season start now? I'm like, we're further away than we are close to the Super Bowl. So,
but we're closer to training camp than we were to Lions versus Washington.
Anyway, training camp doesn't impress me much. I'm sorry.
All right, Shania?
Well, before we got this podcast rolling, we were doing Shakira to each other. So now we hit Shania. Now we're just all 90s here. Let's roll back the clock a little bit. The schedule. Hey. So let's start with some takeaways. The Lions have an incredibly loaded schedule now that we know where everyone is. They are playing on both Thanksgiving and on Christmas. One of two teams to do that, the Dallas Cowboys the other. And in both Chiefs. Games, and the Chiefs, excuse me, yes. Divisional games on both holidays as well. As Packers on Thanksgiving and the Vikings on Christmas. They end the season on the road at Bears. Something me and Jeremy had been discussing a little bit, as seemed like a real possibility to happen. Open the season on the road at Lambeau. First home game is Bears, so right off the bat, division games. And then I won't go through the entire thing, but I want to pass this over to Ryan, who wasn't with us, because I know we've got some big statements, and me and Jeremy want to recap on a couple of our predictions. But Ryan, your biggest takeaways from the schedule as we see it now?
I hope the Lions just make it to the playoffs. That's all I care about. I don't care if they win 10 games and make the playoffs. I don't care if they win 14 games and make the playoffs. I just want the Lions to get to the playoffs. And I'm not saying that their schedule is like too hard. I definitely think that the Lions are a football team where you can almost have the expectations that barring a catastrophic happening, they're going to win at least 9-10 games. But that's the big takeaway, I think, right? Is like looking at the grueling road schedule, looking at all the opponents that come with being a first place football team in your division. this is what you get. But I think last year let us know that this team is like up for the challenge, right? I mean, they finished first in their division a year ago, so I think they're ready for it. I just don't know if I'm ready for it. You know what I mean? Like I generally loathe. I think I talked about this last year though. Like, because I noticed it during last season, was like, man, I really miss when the Lions used to just play at 1 o'clock on Sunday. It was really cool. It was predictable. As human beings, we crave structure and routine, and it's no different with my football team schedule. This is anything but that, guys.
Well, if you're a season ticket holder, you're kind of getting that because 5 of the 8 at home
That's
are
true.
actually at
Yeah.
1 o'clock. But you do not have a single 1 o'clock road game, which is insane. And yeah, I mean, I think that the road schedule is obviously the biggest takeaway because, I mean, we knew it was going to be hard. We already knew the opponents, right? We knew they had to play a first place schedule. But what I guess I didn't realize or didn't think about enough was anytime the Lions are going to play a marquee team, they're just going to throw that on primetime now. Like that's the new normal. So when you go to the Ravens, when you go to the Chiefs, when you go to the Eagles, they're going to make that a primetime game every single time. Like there's not the only game that maybe I thought could have been a primetime game that didn't end up being one is Washington. And that is still a 4:25 game. That is like the Fox game of the week.
Oh yeah, that's getting Tom Brady for sure.
Yeah, currently 12 of the Lions' 16 games that has a date and time. The last game of the season doesn't have that yet. Are nationally televised. Like the United States is going to get sick of the Detroit Lions, and I'm okay with that. I actually love that all.
Are
those
they
home
though?
games are
Because
1
they
o'clock.
got the highest, some of the highest rated games last year.
Right.
Like they
Sure.
This is like a reputation they've earned for better or for worse. They every time the Lions got put on a big stage, the league got rewarded for it. So
Sure.
I feel like this is kind of pushing the button that works.
Maybe.
It's kind of shocking because I thought the Commanders would take up a lot of that oxygen, and they didn't. The Lions still remain one of the top, like are up there along with like the Chiefs and the Cowboys is like some of the most viewed national coverage that you're going to get of an NFL team.
But Chris, let me quote my favorite movie.
Uh-oh.
You either live long enough to become the villain or
Come on,
die
you can do it.
as a kid. I don't know.
You can. Look, man. No, I you know what? It's DJ Khaled suffering from success. That's what this is.
I thought for sure it was going to be with great power comes great responsibility.
Just every cape crap.
Spider-Man does have a cape.
Can I talk about something? It's a point. I've seen a lot of people, including me, bringing up that the Detroit Lions have, I'm sorry, what is it? Is it 3 Thursday night games?
Yeah.
Thursday games.
Yep.
Thanksgiving, a Thursday night football game, and Christmas, which falls on a Thursday here. And I think there's a little bit of PTSD from the gauntlet the Lions ran last year where they had 3 games in 10 days or 11 days. The flip side of that is true. So Jared Smith at Jared Smith Bets, I work with him on some radio shows. Very smart Vegas guy. Put out a very big 2025 NFL spread matrix. If you're a gambling sort of guy, a lot of good information on there. Strength of schedule for the Lions is 30th in the league. 30th as far as descending in difficulty. So 30th means the third strongest, third toughest strength of schedule. But 13th when it comes to he gave him like a 13 advantage on the matrix, which is the highest in the league by his calculations for rest. So there is a rest advantage to the Detroit Lions for what they're doing. And the bye week's coming in a really opportune time in the middle of the week, in the middle of the season. This isn't going to be an issue like last year where they had an early bye week and had to slug a gauntlet, Jeremy. I think that's really a really interesting point that I hadn't even really considered when looking at the schedule, that because it is going to be a tough schedule, but I do think the Lions aren't going to have to suffer a gauntlet like they did last year too, where it's just, where they're winning in spite of just a tremendous amount of games being played.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things about the bye week that are in the Lions' favor. One is having it pretty much smack dab, right? You get 7 games and then 10 on the other side, as opposed to, 4 and then 13? No 13-game gauntlet, which is very, very nice. You also, in that first half, you knock out the games against the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bucks. Like, you have some... I think the difficulty of the games is pretty evenly spread out between both sides of the bye. And then the other thing is, while the Lions have a bye week right in the middle, the rest of the NFC North does not. I don't know if you guys have looked into that, but I believe two of the other teams in the NFC North have week 5 byes. One has a week 6 bye. And then the last part in the Lions' favor with bye weeks is they do not face a single team coming off their bye week. All season long, they don't have to face a team that has a full week of rest ahead of them.
So that's part of the net advantage of 13 days of rest. They also are playing 5 teams, Ryan, that are coming off Monday night games, which means so the Bears, Bengals, Chiefs, Eagles, Steelers will all be coming off a Monday night game. So they're losing a day of rest against the Detroit Lions. And then 3 games in which they're either coming off their bye week in week 9 or coming off a mini bye. So that all starts to really add up to at least a small amount of advantage, at least for the Lions, when looking at the schedule.
Yeah. Want to get into superlatives?
I do. Well, before we do, Jeremy, I know you wanted to rant about the... Look, we're in the
I built that into it. I built that into the superlatives.
Oh, you did? Okay, excuse me.
We can start with that one. Let's start with that one.
Okay, game you're most annoyed with, a.k.a. Jeremy can talk about the Christmas game. I'm sorry, Brian, you wanted to lead the superlatives? You usually read the Okay. I retract that, Brian, you speak.
Go, Jeremy.
I mean, I have to talk about it, right? I last week I looked into the eyes of my camera and said I'm going to throw hands with Roger Goodell if he schedules the Lions on Christmas, and so now I got to throw hands with Roger Goodell. Like I don't know what else to say. I'm listen. This isn't a threat. I'm not threatening anybody, but I'm just saying, like, if I'm in the same room with Roger Goodell, I'm at least going to very vividly envision throwing hands with Roger Goodell.
Can we put that on Netflix too?
Yes,
I can get some pretty good ratings.
Listen, I know. I don't want to be the guy that complains about his job when he has one of the best jobs in the world. But this sucks. I mean, it sucks. It sucks to have to forfeit another holiday. And granted, like, you have to do this every now and then anyways. Sometimes Lions are going to play on New Year's. Sometimes Lions are going to play on New Year's Day. Sometimes on New Year's. Sometimes they're going to play on Christmas just because it falls on a Sunday, right? But I feel like it doesn't just affect the writers, the team, the players' family, the people that work for each team, the broadcast team. Like, it affects fans too. And I know some fans are excited to add to a holiday that they already like, or to distract them from family so that they have something else to do. But I think a lot are like, hey, this is a sacred holiday of mine. I don't want to spend it on football. I want to keep that personal part of my life away from the sports part of my life. And I don't know. The Lions obviously already are forfeiting Thanksgiving. They do every year, but I guess it stings a little less knowing that the Cowboys and Chiefs are doing the same thing. It's just, I don't like it. I've never liked the NFL expanding on Christmas. I was complaining from the get-go when they started to go after the NBA. But I don't know, just disappointing. It comes with the territory, but it sucks.
You remember, Ryan, when I think it was a Seahawks schedule release. It was kind of around the video. They punked their players one year by like giving them a fake schedule showing them playing on both Christmas and Thanksgiving. And I don't know if you remember the like despair and agony that was audible from the room of players.
I don't remember that.
That's what I feel right now.
I think Quandre Diggs was part of that. I do remember that.
Yes, he was. But that's what we're looking at. I'm with Jeremy. I don't want to deal with this. I really hope Christmas starts falling in a part of the week that is not operable for the NFL, because I didn't care when the NBA put games on Christmas, and I safely ignored the NBA. And I'm not thrilled about this idea of a Christmas that I already work on Christmas to begin with because of a lot of my other job is filling in on holidays. But to do that while also having to agonize and die over a Lions game is it's a little much. It's a little much. You've got kids though.
this isn't going to change ever, Chris. It doesn't
I
matter
know.
what day of the week that Christmas falls on. It was on a Wednesday last year. They still played football games. It didn't matter, and it doesn't matter, and it'll continue to not matter.
Yeah, it's like walking in to the Lions media room on Thursday for all the defensive coordinators, defensive coaches. Like, it was walking into a funeral. Like, those guys were so upset and distraught, and it's worse for them than it is for me because they travel. They go to the away game. So, that game is in Minnesota. Yeah. It's a 4:00 game. So, like, if it was a night game, some of them could, like, spend Christmas morning with their families and then leave to Minnesota. Like, these guys got to be in Minnesota 4 or 5 hours. Like, I don't think they're going to have much time with their family on Christmas.
They're preparing all week and doing walkthroughs and everything too. Like,
yeah, with the team is going to have to definitely miss all of Christmas. Maybe they get back in like the last hours of Christmas Day if they're lucky. But I mean, it's hard for me to ignore the human element of playing on Christmas because I think all of us in some way or another have worked through a holiday. I've worked on every single holiday possible. Worked an overnight on New Year's Eve. It sucks. It's not fun. And I understand, not like playing a violin for these poor NFL players that are making millions of dollars, but like they have families that are going through that. They have relatives. They have friends that they want to see that they can't. And it sucks. It just sucks.
You just miss out on the world. You miss out on the world. I worked a ton. I used to work at like 4 years of New Year's. Like being up as the calendar changes and I'm doing sports talk radio.
Yeah.
Like it's not fun to be locked away from the world on that cool stuff. It's just not. All right, Ryan, what's our next superlative?
All right, so let's get into the actual real ones. So I'm gonna just pick from a hat. Let's do the travel nightmare game. So which road game, due to whether it's distance or timing or opponent, seems like the worst situation for the Lions, like logistically, as far as like a travel game on the road?
Yeah, they actually got kind of lucky there too, right? And maybe not lucky is the right word because it's formulaic how you build the schedule, but there was that chart that went out, and I think the Lions either had the second or third fewest miles that they're going to have to travel this year. But either way, they're in the bottom 5, and the furthest they have to travel is the one game in LA against the Rams. Feels like they make that trip all the time, so I don't think that's going to be my answer. I mean, is it just Chicago? Traveling to Chicago in the winter? Like, that sucks.
Last game of the season. Maybe a lot on the line.
Or maybe nothing.
Maybe nothing.
I don't trust air travel in the winter right now. Maybe like that's the answer.
The day after my birthday, the first day of fall, Ravens, September 22nd, after 2 divisional games, going to Baltimore at night for a Monday Night Football game. That does not feel doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel good at all. I understand you'll have the extra day of rest because it's Monday night, but we talked about this a few years ago, Ryan, when the Lions played the Ravens and got smacked around pretty well by them. Lamar Jackson does very well against NFC teams when he sees them for the first time, and doubly so when it's early in the season. Now, the Ravens have kind of started the last few seasons kind of on like really odd, uneven keels. So maybe that's in your favor, but I just see that on paper. Road divisional game, home divisional game, road against the Ravens. And that's a cadence I don't like. I don't like it.
That's fair. I'm looking at week 11, coming off of a game against Washington, which I'm sure will end up on somewhere in our list when it comes to the other superlatives. But going against the Eagles week 11 on the road after playing on the road against Washington the week prior to that, like that'll be pretty tough.
Yeah, I think they have 3 occasions of back-to-back road games this year. That's one of them. That's probably the most brutal of the 3.
I mean, like Bengals and then Kansas City is like no cakewalk either.
Right, right. Yeah, and then you have Vikings Bears to finish the season as the other kind of duo there. I mean, obviously, like short week Christmas travel to Minnesota is also a nightmare. But we've talked enough about that one.
For sure. All right, let's hit another one. We'll do what's the biggest statement game that's on the schedule? Like, what's the game that the Lions win that one? I mean, maybe it kind of plays into the national visibility for the team, so it might be like a national game, but what is the game that you guys have circled as the biggest opportunity for the Lions to prove that they're still amongst like the NFL's elite? We'll start with you, Jeremy.
For me, it's at Ravens. I mean, there's no question. The Lions have not fared well there at all. We all know Lamar Jackson is 24-2 against NFC teams in his career.
He's good.
If you can go into their house, beat Lamar Jackson on Monday Night Football while everyone's watching, I don't care how early in the season that is, week 3. That's a statement win. I don't care if they're 0-2 walking into that game. That is a statement win. They're not going to be 0-2. They got the Bears. They're fine. But like, yeah, if that moves them to 2-1 or if that moves them to 3-0, like put them in your top 5 power rankings after that game, because I mean, the Ravens might not be as good as we all think they are, but they've been a pretty reliably very good team and just a nightmare to play if you're in the NFC. So you win that game, you put to bed, one of the last remaining kind of monkeys off on the Lions' back type of games, and Ravens.
For me, as my nose itches and I'm really trying to like get the words out. For me, that game for me is actually happening a little bit later. It is week 6 at Chiefs. If you are going into the Chiefs game with a winning record, let's say like, 4-1, 3-2, heading into the Chiefs, and you beat the Chiefs. If you beat the Chiefs and you improve to 5-1 on the season, and you come off back-to-back games where you're beating elite quarterbacks in Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, and 2 weeks before that, Lamar Jackson, league darling in Caleb Williams, who didn't want to play for the Bears and thought about going to the UFL. Jordan Love, who I think there's still a few coals in that ember, but not many. You've kind of gone through a pretty good gauntlet of media darlings. You've kind of gone through some of the big names right there. You'll be going into a Buccaneers game on long rest before going into the bye. Like, I think it's always a good sign if you can show that you can beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead on the road. I think that's always a statement game to make.
But before we move on, do you think there's any chance that the Chiefs have like a Super Bowl hangover year?
Maybe they kind of, but like, I mean, last year there was a lot of tweaking about that, right? About how the close games they were winning and they didn't look incredibly comfortable. But I think at the same time, it's also, you just presume it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Andy Reid, it's Spagnuolo's defense that they'll be able to like put something together. Yeah, maybe by the time you beat them, they've taken a couple blows, but then you can be the one who slays the king. I think there's still power in being a team that goes into Arrowhead and defeats the Chiefs.
I kind of wonder, I guess, to Jeremy's question, I wonder if just playing that deep into the season for so many years in a row will eventually catch up to them. Which, I don't know. Because that's just not like physically tolling. It's like mentally taxing.
That's LeBron James, LeBron James finals appearance kind of argument. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the statement game being going into Philadelphia and knocking off the defending Super Bowl champions. I know that's kind of like a layup of an answer, but that would be my big statement game. All right. This is one of everybody's favorite day after the schedule release topics. What's the trap game? What's the game that everybody's overlooking? What's the game that's going to sneak up on the Lions and bite them in the ass? Whether it's the Carolina Panthers from a couple of years ago.
You guys are going to like this, but Giants right after two road NFC East teams in Commanders Eagles right before you have to play the Packers. look, we talked about this before. I don't have any threat at all when it comes to what the Giants can do on offense, but that front seven on the defense is actually really good, and I could see them like if they can get to Jared Goff and sack him a handful of times.
At home against the Giants,
you asked for a trap game. Like,
with their season probably over by week 12.
Brian, maybe they get the interim coach bump in that game. Maybe that might be the best argument for the Giants in that game.
Who knows? Maybe they pick Shadur Sanders off waivers or something.
Who's the Giants special teams coordinator that's going to coach the first game in his life at Ford Field?
This is where if they do lose that game, I'm coming on here with a Tommy DeVito jersey, and you can't stop me. Just write that one down right now.
Oh man.
This is a really hard question because it feels like it's either
there's not a lot of traps.
It's either a really, really good opponent or opponent you can't see the Lions losing to in a million years.
Yeah,
like I think my answer, and I know it's the team that finished first in the NFC South, but we always make fun of the NFC South. I think Week 7 is a bit of a trap game because you're coming off, I think, 2 tough challenges, as you highlighted. Yep. You have a road back-to-back, Bengals, Chiefs, and then you have an extra day off, but you're also maybe looking ahead forward to that bye week, right? Like, we're finally going to get some rest. Okay, and then it's the Bucs who come in, and the Bucs have every reason to try to beat you down, obviously, given how well the Lions have been able to handle them recently. I mean, aside from Jared Goff throwing 55 passes, but I think everybody's 55 passes, 55 handoffs, 55.
I was about to do the same thing.
But yeah, that would be my trap game.
That's I think a fair answer. Because I'm also being forced to answer this question, I'm going to say Week 18 against the Bears. Only because I think, and I think I've felt this way about the Bears several times and proven wrong most of them. They seem like a team that's going to be better in the second half of the season rather than the first half. They're going to start figuring things out. Ben Johnson is going to figure out which players do what well and put them in the right positions. I think they're going to be a much different team in Week 2 than they are going to be in Week 18. The question is, will that game have any stakes? And that's the thing I can't say. Like, are the Bears? It's
really hard for.
Is that going to be like the 2022 Lions-Packers game for the Bears, where like you're not playing for anything but pride, but like if you finish with a win, it's going to be a big statement? Are the Lions playing for anything? Do they have stuff wrapped up? We don't know if seeding is going to matter if you win the division if your overall record. We don't know any of that. That
was last year for the Bears too. Like they had that pride game against the Packers, and they really showed up for it. Like they didn't have to play for anything. I know the Packers really didn't have much to play for at that point, but they still wanted to kick the crap out of the Packers. Like they at least have the gumption, but it's hard, right? Like, cause as you said, like, I'm not going to take a divisional game here. The Browns, I don't really see having a shot in hell against the Lions. Like,
especially that early in the season.
Steelers going into Thanksgiving. Like, I don't know.
Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the Steelers, they're going to be 500 in that game.
Is he going to be with the Steelers?
It doesn't even matter. They're going to be 500 in that time of the year. It's just
steady.
Doesn't matter.
Even steady.
I will say, like with Jeremy pointing out about Christmas Day obviously being an annoyance, I think my biggest annoyance with the schedule is that they're playing divisional teams on holidays.
Yes.
I don't want the Lions to play divisional opponents on Thanksgiving. I feel like the games I always remember are like the game, the James Houston game, right? When they played the Bills on Thanksgiving a couple of years ago. I think, not so great thoughts, but I think back to Joey Harrington's start with the Dolphins when the Lions played them on Thanksgiving. Those games stand out to me, but because they play the Packers so many times and because they play the Bears so many times on Thanksgiving, those all blend together to me.
Right. And plus, like, these are games that carry extra weight. Don't you want it best on best, not two teams coming into short weeks?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if anybody highlighted that, but like I think it's a good thing that the Lions play the Bears in week 2. Like I want them playing the Bears that early in the season when they're still trying to get everything figured out.
By the way,
I'm fine with a Lambeau trip in early September as well.
I don't know if you listened to last week's podcast, Ryan, but I predicted that the season would bookend with Bears games, and I came pretty darn close to being right.
All right. We're short on time. What's the next one, Ryan?
All right. This one, I think we're we'll get more than just one answer, but I feel like it's kind of obvious. The biggest revenge spot. So which opponent kind of carries the most like emotional or narrative weight from a past result? Like, is that just an easy one?
Yeah, we can lay it up.
But I don't know because I think the Bears games count too, though.
That almost feels more revenge on their end. Well, maybe not. I don't know.
It feels revenge on the sense that like everyone's been talking about you. Shut the bleep up. We're still the Kings.
I know, but it's Benedict Johnson. Like, I think that's the revenge spot where it's like, okay, buddy. Like,
but that is fully a fan thing, right? I don't think anyone on that offense hates Ben Johnson or even like is like
likes him a little less.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Commanders game, everyone in that locker room that was on the team last year is like has that one circled, is pissed.
How many of them were playing in that game though?
That's good point.
How many?
Great point.
Are we still going to? Are we going to extend the revenge against the Cowboys about Dan Skipper for 2 years now?
No, they're gonna want. That's a revenge game for them. You embarrassed us. You got Chris Christie mad.
Is
oh come on, Schottenheimer's not gonna doesn't even know what revenge means.
Is week 16 against the Pittsburgh Steelers an opportunity for Dan Campbell to exercise the demons of his tie against Mason Rudolph?
Oh,
I mean, Mason Rudolph's probably going to be starting.
How dare you even mention that game?
All right.
I don't know, but I think the one other one I would throw out would be week 3, like Ravens. Like, I think that there's enough players from that team in 2023 where it's like, oh man, they really like, that's the last time I remember the Lions really getting like spanked around to the point where it wasn't even a contest. Like I know the Bills game happened last year, right? But at least it was like semi-competitive to a point, like that.
And you were banged up tremendously too.
Right?
Yeah.
That was the last time this team felt like they didn't belong. Period.
Yeah, like it was like okay, they're not really a top 5 team. Like let's not go that far, right? But like now they clearly are. Yeah.
Plus, I mean, listen. There's a certain player on that team that's no longer there that may have had a little bit of a curse on the Lions. What, 4 years ago?
We don't need to mention his name. He's a scumbag.
True.
Next one, Ryan. We gotta.
Oh, you want to keep going? I thought we were gonna shut it down.
Oh no, we got time for one more. Give me one more.
Okay.
Just make it a quick single sentence answer.
So pretend you are not a Lions fan, but they have so many nationally televised games. Which one, from just being an outsider's perspective, do you think is like must-see TV from a national standpoint? Like, what's the one game, if you weren't a Lions fan, would you circle on the schedule and say, that's appointment television?
I feel like there's 3 different answers, Jeremy. It's either Commanders because of the same revenge game things. It's Eagles because it's the playoff matchup we didn't get last year, and we're getting it on Sunday Night Football. Or it's Lions-Bears in any iteration. Just because it's the Kings against who everyone thinks is going to be the next riser. It is Ben Johnson against his old team. Like, I think those are the 3 teams I would probably circle over anyone else at this point.
Yeah, of those, I'd probably pick the Eagles. I mean, it's the Super Bowl champs against what a lot of people think are going to be the biggest threat to them to repeat this year in the NFC. You might throw Washington in that conversation. You might throw one of the other NFC North, maybe even the Rams in that conversation. I don't think the Ben Johnson story carries nationally as much. I almost think you could throw the Rams back into this conversation, like Matthew Stafford versus his old team won last time.
Yeah, but I feel like at this point Stafford's getting so old and the Rams are kind of getting so ignored as they move farther away from the Super Bowl success that's lost a lot of its luster. But I know you 15, care about it, but
I don't. That story has reached its apex for me. But I do think, I think there is a little bit of excitement about the Rams this year. You remember, like, they took the Eagles to the brink in the playoffs, and they finished that season really strong.
In a snowy-ass game, too, yeah.
So that's Week 15. Lions-Rams, Week 15. That game could have a lot of implications, even if you take all the Stafford stuff out of it.
Yeah, and you have, Charmander versus Charizard, Tesla versus Puka Nakua. There's a lot of storylines for that one. My
face on Jeremy.
My answer is going to be Week 5, the Bengals game, because I think that will probably technically be like the game of the week. It's 425, and it's Lions versus Bengals. I could see that game being an absolute shootout. I mean, it's not going to predictably be like bad weather in Cincinnati early October, and you could see those teams. I could see both those teams putting up like 30 plus points easily.
True. It felt
That's
like
a good
2
one,
years
too, yeah.
ago, those were like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if the Lions and the Bengals met in the Super Bowl? And then like the Bengals fell off a little bit, but they're definitely capable of a rebound season and jumping right back into the AFC.
Both teams really
title contender.
being hamstrung with injuries last year.
Sure.
In very different ways. And like all it would have taken is a little bit of a push for the Bengals to have overcome some of those injuries.
Oh,
And they just didn't.
And then the last point too, though, I want to make is that week 5, like Trey Hendrickson will be on the Detroit Lions, so like that'll be like a big
Okay.
storyline going into that game.
How dare you?
Well, you know what is going to be all over us? Righteous Felon Craft Jerky and Meat Sticks. Huh? No? Okay, headphones are off. The official Pride of Detroit jerky and meat food for you. 2-ounce bags of jerky with 16 to 20 grams of protein. Meat sticks with 8 grams. If it's good enough for us, it'll be good enough for you too. This is always the read that gets Ryan to walk away. Thankfully, our sponsor has not walked away after all these years. Thanks to you, the viewer, who goes and helps us to buy Righteous Felon Craft Jerky, because the more they see you buying from them, the more they like us. Help us, please. We've got kids to feed. Ryan does. Righteous Felon is based in Westchester, Pennsylvania. They use locally sourced all-natural Black Angus beef and pride themselves on superior quality, revolutionary branding, and unique flavors that go beyond the stereotypical jerky offering. It's good stuff. We're not just reading this because they're paying us. We've had it ourselves, and we love this junk. Trust me, it is the snack food of choice if you want protein, and good, delicious flavor. Go to righteousfelon.com and use the promo code POD15, POD15 at checkout. Get 15% off your order. That's promo code POD15 at righteousfelon.com. I tried asking them one time to say if they'd make the promo code What Up Doe, and they never replied to my email. Coming up next to the Pride of Detroit PODcast, let's talk about some press conferences. Let's talk about some words from the Detroit Lions coaching staff and some very interesting thoughts about a couple of players. That's next. Hi, chat.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for hanging with us this past week. Like I said, I felt a little bad that we didn't go live for the midweek mailbag, but they're just did not cooperate in terms of scheduling.
Caitlin, unfortunately for you on the Righteous Felon read, there's a big old hole in the middle. Let me tell you about copywriters. They love when you riff. Because that means less that they have to write.
Thanks, your boy. Morok.
Rock.
Should I just get straight to some alerts here? And then we can talk about whatever?
Sure.
Great. Let's start all the way back with No Decaf. 50 months, 50. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you, Chris. Using that Twitch Prime. Also using the Twitch Prime is Zern Baby Zern. 46 months says haven't caught a live show in a minute, but we are so back. Hey, appreciate you sticking around. Sorry, I keep getting alerts on my phone about Matthew Golden signing. Can we like collectively decide as a society that like the Adam Schefters and Ian Rappaports of the world don't need to report when rookies sign their rookie deals?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care as much about that. I would prefer if Adam Schefter doesn't push alerts about the Pope. That seems like not his lane.
I appreciated it because I was the first to know at my place of work because of it.
You learned about it from Adam Schefter. Well, that's better than me. I think in the studio, I learned about it from Pat McAfee show was on the TV and showed the white smoke.
There you go.
Do you guys take any stock? Do you guys? I am so done with the Chicago Pope storyline.
It was
For a man who is very universal and it represents a universal love, for a lot of people to go be like, da Pope, he's gonna bless the socks. I'm like, shut the bleep up. I will strangle. I am going to bring back excommunication and holy wars to destroy you for heresy.
It was probably one of the most nostalgic moments on Twitter for about 2 hours, and then I was done with it. It felt like old Twitter where like people were getting their jokes in, and it was funny, and it was fun.
Blue Sky was like that too, yeah.
And then it was like, okay, I've seen a million people do da Pope, and I've seen a million people say, oh, the Chicago got a Pope before they got a 4,000-yard passer. Yeah,
passer.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, you got your shots in. They were great. They're funny. I don't see people still making those jokes. Maybe they still are, but
I still see Da Pope. I still see Da Pope and talking about the White Sox.
Well, some people aren't as terminally online as us.
I think my favorite
crack their jokes 2 weeks late.
I think my favorite joke from that week though was Wyatt Privilege on Blue Sky saying NPR is reporting the Green Bay Packers organization and fan base have been excommunicated.
I think the thing I liked the most was seeing that broadcast footage. Was it from the 2005 World Series?
Yes.
The Pope is at the White Sox versus Astros game.
It also was kind of funny just for his brother to go out there and like fact correct people who are like he's Cubs fans. He's not a Cubs fan.
Yeah.
He's a what? How dare you?
So he's from Chicago, but like also went to Villanova. So a lot of people are also penciling in the Nova Knicks. But just because like it's just weird that like just because he's from America and like went to a White Sox game, we're just all assuming he's some super sports fan like the rest of us degenerates.
Well, I'm kind of confirmed because there's footage of him at a World Series game. So
it's a World Series game. It was in Chicago, a place they hadn't seen one in over 100 years.
It's true.
I don't think we can take shots at people when we do a Lions podcast like that.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm just saying it's like when I decided randomly to go to I went to the Cavaliers parade. Like sometimes you just go to something, be a part of history.
Be the status symbol to be there. Karen, thank you for the 35 months. Can football season start already? As Ryan rudely pointed out, apparently we're not even close.
Not in the least.
Junk Trunk 34 months says go Loins, FTB.
Go Loins.
Luxtables 28 months says give me a bowl of beans or give me a death. Did you just throw an apple across the room?
Yeah, but it went in the trash can. Nailed it. Kobe.
I don't know if you heard what I just said, but it was directed at you.
Oh, what was it? What'd you say?
Luxtable said, give me a bowl of beans or give me death.
All right. Yeah, I know. They're coming.
DParente 25 months subscribe using that Twitch Prime. Rise the Beast $2 super chat says just join, wins the next mid-week mailbag.
How did he spell it?
No, not important.
There's a lot of people. Yeah.
I'm not going to point out someone's spelling errors. That's rude. LJB Ruff 60 months subscribed to us on Twitch. Thank you so much. Damian Smith £2 super chat says up, down, indifferent on the schedule release video.
I didn't even see it. I think this year was probably the most detached I've been from schedule release videos, besides for the Chargers video, which everyone flocks to, but I didn't hear a damn thing about anyone else's video.
Yeah, there weren't a ton of great ones. I feel like teams are starting to pull back a little bit, and that might continue now that one team had to pull their video and apologize to a player and call their agent.
What a team it was! What a team it was! The Colts, baby.
It wasn't even that bad, and
Tyreek Hill didn't even mind it either.
No,
I think the bigger problem was that they didn't have permission,
right,
like
from
Microsoft to use Minecraft.
That is very funny. There were some okay ones. Like I don't even remember the teams. One basically listed their schedule by reading off. It was like a drug ad, and reading off the side effects. And so each team has a side effect, which I thought was kind of clever and funny. As for the Lions, like, it was just hey, let's celebrate Detroit. And that's fine. It wasn't offensive. It wasn't noteworthy.
I mean, even last year's was like, hey, we got Tim Robinson and Sam Richardson. They have a funny machine. It doesn't work. Here's the schedule.
Yeah.
Like, it was just kind of like, yeah.
I do know that you pitch ideas to the team, and certain pitches are going to get denied. I don't know what the Lions have pitched, but I know they've pitched. That wasn't choice number one. I know that.
Okay.
And so like, yeah, I don't know.
You know what though?
The One Pride production is in kind of a weird place. I know they've gone through a lot of like overturn the past few years, and I think that's pretty typical for any production crew like that. We had I don't want to call it a snafu or fiasco, but like you had no Inside the Den last year, which was obviously I mean, that has to be a top-down decision, right? I don't think the creative crew's like, let's not do our most popular thing this year. It was probably like, hey, don't do it this year. And now Brad Holmes is like yucking it up and being like, ha, Derek, go do it this time. You got to be held accountable for not doing it last year, when you know it was probably the other way around, right? Like, it was probably Brad saying like, don't do it this year.
I just think the only one who should do these is the Chargers team. Like, the NFL needs to like hire the Chargers team, just do the entire NFL schedule or something at this point.
You were hating it last year. You were big old haterade for the anime one because they attacked your sacred anime. That's why.
I don't even know what that's even a reference to, but
that's just in general. Your genre. You don't like people co-opting your genre.
Well, they went to Minecraft this year, so what do you want?
I have no opinion on it, other than
what about? Go ahead.
What? I was just gonna say, like, it's more. It's not about like the general theme. It's more about the little hidden jokes inside of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, what about Jacksonville's with the Saratoga water guy?
Who's that?
The morning routine guy.
Oh God, did they do that?
Yeah.
I didn't see their video at all. Did they do that? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should probably look that up. They didn't get the actual guy, did they?
No, they did. They got the actual guy to do it.
Then. Never mind then.
So what's interesting about those is, like, obviously you have to shoot it in a way that you can reorganize it in the actual order of the schedule, right? Like, they shoot those months before the actual schedule is out. So like you have to come up with an idea that works that way, and it's probably not particularly easy. I heard like some of the Minecraft ones took like 500 hours of playing Minecraft.
Yeah. You have to actually set that shit up in Minecraft. Yeah.
Which I'm just like,
it's
why
not
don't
easy.
you just like digitally do something like that? And it seems like you don't have to do all that, but I don't know. I think in general, like, there became too much pressure to do these really well. It put too much on these guys' plates, who, by the way, work like 11 and a half months out of the year, pretty much, which I understand most people do, but either way.
Can't relate.
Right. I think the best case scenario nowadays is something like what the Lions did last year, is like, get a bunch of celebrities to just be funny for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Low effort, but like pretty decent results.
Nah. Next year we're gonna hire Studio Ghibli.
I mean, I also think that just like, you know, a football team that wants to win a Super Bowl, like, what do you care about the schedule release? You know, that's going to be my take.
Is that no?
Really? We're gonna do okay.
Because
when
winning
they have
football teams don't care about what kind of video package you put together.
Ryan
to
from
show off
Hawley.
your schedule.
Ryan from Hawley wants to weigh in. Let's put him on the line. Ryan, you're on 97.1 The Ticket.
Maybe if the Chargers stop spending 500 hours playing Minecraft and start studying a football textbook, maybe they'd actually win some football games.
You know, I think honestly the only way you can have fun with it is if you got somebody local like Kid Rock to come do something for your schedule release.
How much do you think they regretted putting Kid Rock in the weird, like, we renewed our naming rights to Ford Field video?
From all the replies on social media, I can say maybe some. But where would it rank among the decisions that were made in the past calendar year with Hulk Hogan showing up to training camp.
Oh my God.
Do those sit in the same tier of regret?
I don't. You know what?
Yes. Yes, they do. As someone who has talked to Lions PR about both those instances,
The answer is yes.
the answer is yes.
I mean,
I look back at it,
you know what?
it's
I
not that
have
big of a deal.
I have a very good insight on this, but like I don't know how I can say it without getting political. So
All right.
I think just pointing and laughing at the entire situation is the best route because
yeah,
Hulk Hogan was at training camp. Is that like something to really get that upset about? Like, I know whether you love him or hate him, it was just like he was there. I thought like I don't like the guy. I don't like a lot of things that he had to say, but does that mean he can't be at my favorite team's training camp? I don't give a shit.
yeah, you lost the culture war over sports. Sorry.
he was in town to plug Real American beer at like local liquor stores. So like I think that's the disconnect. Is like why is he getting like special privilege to like be at Lions training camp when like he's in the state to hawk his crappy beer? Like
Because WrestleMania 3. I think that was the WrestleMania where he put Andre the Giant through at the
at the Silverdome.
Was the Silverdome? Yeah.
It was the Silverdome, which hasn't been around in forever.
I know.
And Terry was in his 30s. That's how old the Hulkster is.
Terry.
And I'm going to call him Terry from now on.
Terry. His mama called him Terry. I'm going to call him Terry.
Exactly.
All right, let me get through the other alerts here. 43 months from Das Gibb says 15-2 go Loins. RC
Loins.
Vader 33 months says hot take the Lions were good the last 2 years because of Dan Campbell instead of Ben Johnson.
I don't think that's a hot take around Detroit.
It's certainly not a hot take around Detroit. It's also reductive. Like Ben Johnson had a reason, had a part in it. So did Dan Campbell. So did Jared Goff. So like,
So did Aaron Glenn.
I feel like Lions fans are pushing back a little bit too much on because like I don't know, I don't even know who started this conversation on Twitter. It was probably just like a Vikings fan it was Bukowski. I should have known.
Blame a Vikings fan.
It's
Why
usually
not?
a safe bet. It was Bukowski because he's questioning John Morton. He's questioning like, oh, I don't know why everyone's thinking just assuming the Lions are going to be good this year because they lost Ben Johnson and they hired this. Like he kept harping on the age. Oh, this 55-year-old guy. I'm just like, what's that have to do with anything? Why are you being weirdly ageist? Like,
How old is Andy Reid?
Because everyone wants the next Sean McVay guy.
right.
That's it.
And like they're going too far in one direction. Now Lions fans are going too far in the other direction to be like, what are you talking about? It's the players that play the game. It doesn't matter who's out there. It doesn't matter who's an offensive coordinator. John Morton was with the team in 2022. Who cares? Who cares about losing Ben Johnson? We got Penei Sewell. It's just like, okay, it matters. You can't sit here and tell me for sure that John Morton is just going to keep the boat afloat. That he's going to produce a top 5 offense. I'm not saying he will or won't, but like this assumption that like, oh no, everything's going to be fine. I have no question whatsoever. Everything's going to be fine. It's like, I'm confident everything's going to be fine, but it's a fair criticism or at least a fair question. It's fair to question how good the offense is going to be without Ben Johnson and in a way that's not like, oh, the Lions are going to be terrible.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if John Morton lets his wide receivers throw passes in playoff games, or I don't know what he would do on 3rd and 1 from the red zone after they ran the ball down their throat, all to start the game. Jeremy,
Stop. The Ben Johnson popularity, like he was like at a 99.9 before that Washington game, and 3 weeks later he's at like 2%.
Benedict Johnson.
It's just like he was never that good anyways. The J-Mo throw, the pass on 3rd and 1, like suddenly he's the worst offensive coordinator ever. He was always overrated. And the Lions didn't need him. It's just like, okay, come on.
Benefit to Blue Sky. No Pete Bukowski. Just saying.
All right. So hold on. No, because I will real quick, because I thought the ageism thing was really weird. Like that comment from Bukowski was really weird, but it just kind of confirms that he might be a little horny for Matt LaFleur.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
All
right.
right.
But in all
And you don't like the tush push either.
in all seriousness, the thing is I think so much of the media that you as a sports fan consumes, like, you heard all about how big of a get Ben Johnson was for the Chicago Bears, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think your natural inclination as a Lions fan is to push back and be like, whoa, hold on. Like, it wasn't all him.
Right. And that's fair.
But you're continuously getting like Adam Rank, and you're getting like, not even just like the the psycho Bears fans. You're getting like national people. You probably maybe go like, oh, I normally respect your opinion, but you're talking about Ben Johnson like he was the success for the Detroit Lions on offense. It's like, I don't know.
But I
like,
don't
Jahmyr
see a lot
Gibbs
of.
pretty good.
I guess the difference is I don't see a lot of national people saying, okay, Ben Johnson left the Lions, now they're going to tank into the ground. Like, they give a lot to Ben Johnson. But I'm just saying that's the difference between them and the psychopaths like Rank and Bukowski, who are just assholes who just like show their asses constantly on social media about this shit and make embarrassments about themselves on every show they go on. Like, versus national people, like, most people still put like like Colin Cowherd isn't knocking the Lions out of his tier 1 just because they lost Ben Johnson.
No,
it's
and I
weird,
don't.
Yeah,
and I don't think that that's a byproduct, but I think it's just so many people saying like, what a good hire for the Chicago Bears. Period.
Yeah.
Right. And Lions fans take that and say like, well, what does that mean about us? And it's like, well, hold on, you're projecting a little bit.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I do wonder, like, once prediction season rolls around, how people are gonna treat the NFC North. Because I do think there is going to be a little bit of the Lions are going to fall off. Like, that is coming.
I think that's going to come from the schedule more than anything, because there's a lot of hay that's going to be made, that is being made about the Lions' schedule right now.
But everyone is dealing with, in the NFC North, is dealing with that schedule, right? Like, every single one of those teams is bottom 10 in strength of schedule.
I'm telling you from meetings I've had, like, the Lions are getting singled out in the NFC North for that schedule, though.
Yeah.
Right,
like,
right. But don't they have the same strength of schedule as the Chicago Bears?
Yeah,
it's like 574 winning percentage. Yeah,
last year's winning percentage. Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just wonder, because I mean, first of all, there's just going to be people who are actually predicting and doing what they actually think is going to happen. Then there's going to be like a wave of like, I gotta be bold. Let me do something.
I think the issue is like, I don't think a lot of people are ready to back the Bears to be the one to take the division. But I also think at the same time, there's a lot of people who have doubts about the Packers and Vikings. Like, the Vikings are going to once again be starting basically a first-year quarterback.
Right.
And with the way how that schedule ended, there's still a lot of faith in Kevin O'Connell, but like, questions about J.J. McCarthy, if it's just going to be another Sam Darnold situation where all you need to do is just take him out of the water at the wrong point. And suddenly he doesn't look so, like, we're all basing J.J. McCarthy being awesome on like a preseason game and a half. And for the Packers, I think the love fest has come off Jordan Love. More people have noticed the warts on him.
I was gonna say, but don't you think some of the optimism surrounding the Vikings is not even just like J.J. McCarthy, but it's like, look at what Kevin O'Connell did with Sam Darnold. So it's like, if he can do that with Sam Darnold, what can he do with J.J. McCarthy?
Right, but the fault in that logic is that Sam Darnold has been in the NFL for 7 years before that, right? Like,
I mean, the fault in that logic is that the Vikings were flirting with Aaron Rodgers.
Also true. But yeah, Marcus Newsom on YouTube has a comment that I want to respond to. It's a fair comment. He says Johnny Morton has been in the same coaching circles for 8 years. They probably damn near speak the same language. In the film room, I predict Morton to be a great fit. And that is all true, right? Like, he helped implement this offense. He said it last week, like the offense is going to be pretty much the same. I'm not here to take anything away from it. I'm here to add to it. All that is true, but there is one like big question mark about him, and it's whether he can call plays in a game, whether he can have that feel on game day of like sequential play calling, because that's one of the things, again, before we thought Ben Johnson was the devil, that's kind of one of the things we always talked about he was really good at. He was really good at setting up one play throughout the course of a game.
And then the divisional round happened.
And then the divisional round happened. I mean, hey, the reverse was called at a pretty perfect time.
Well, I mean, that's because Teddy Bridgewater was on the field.
It worked. That's what I'm saying, but it worked.
Uh, yeah.
And so, like,
but
I can't sit here and say he's going to be a bad play caller, but you also can't come here and say, like, he's going to be the same play caller that Ben Johnson was.
yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about that in segment 2
Yeah.
a little bit. I think the one thing I do want to say though, and this is something that I know that you're usually critical of, Jeremy, is like whether or not a team's leadership is like looking to like outside, like hiring like outside their bubble, right? Like going like outside their comfort zone to make sure that their search for their coaching staff is exhaustive. Which I don't think you would say that the Lions coaching search wasn't exhaustive, but it's like, okay, this is a guy who like maybe he did have the leg up because of familiarity with the people in charge and working with them before. And it's like, I don't know if that's a fair criticism or if it's like a leg up or if it's faulty logic, but I just know that that's something sometimes you talk about a little bit.
Yeah. I have no response.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I was just another thing to think
fair.
about when it comes to John
sure.
Morton. So
No question.
Yeah.
All right, let me get through the rest of these real quick. Do you have something you want to say real quick?
No, I just wanted to say Ryan missed last week. I just realized I still have the can here from last week for the Mountain Dew Mango Rush from Little Caesars.
Mango Rush?
They have it.
Yeah, Little Caesars has their own unique Mountain Dew flavor.
Mountain Dew flavor.
Mango sweet heat, and as we learned when we drank it, it didn't have any hint of tahine or any kind of heat to it. It barely tastes like mango. It was more like an orange pop.
I want to ask like Little Caesars a question. When you're trying to pull new customers in, do you not feel like there's enough of like a Venn diagram perfect circle of people who drink Mountain Dew and people who already eat Little Caesars?
Sure, but that's also true of Taco Bell. That was true of Taco Bell, and they aggressively pursued Baja Blast.
I feel like Taco Bell earned that, though. Like, Taco Bell almost became synonymous with Mountain Dew. They became interlinked.
Yes. Whereas with Little Caesars, the things that you need to be creative is like making a bat calzone.
That's right.
I will say, if you're looking for gamer cred on anything, because like Mountain Dew's entire thing, and the reason why we don't treat it just like Mellow Yellow, was going from XX Stream all the way over to gamer juice,
Gamer fuel
kind of shit. And I'm just saying, Little Caesars is kind of at a disadvantage. This is maybe me as the millennial gamer, but I remember a lot more. Did you ever have Ryan? Or actually, it might have been too young for this. I maybe should be. But Jeremy doesn't play games. I'm kind of in a bit of a pickle here.
I'm 34, so.
Okay. By the way, did you ever have the PlayStation? Like Pizza Hut used to have the demo discs for PlayStation,
Mm-hmm.
and those were loaded with so much shit on them. So like, I kind of associate Pizza Hut as like the gamer pizza, just because of those discs.
Yeah, and who is it? Is it, I don't know, Waxy? I don't know. How do you pronounce that in chat? Wax.
Oh, sure.
I.
Yeah.
Like you can, like, I think having that specific Mountain Dew at Little Caesars, like, I think there's enough Mountain Dew diehards that are like, well, I'm going to go to Little Caesars because they have
Mountain Dew diehards.
They exist, right?
They're just like Grateful Dead fans. They're just going to travel wherever they go.
Look, the only reason I bought it was literally I was going to buy a stuffed crust from there.
Dew head?
It's the first thing on the website. Dew head.
A doo-doo head.
Doo-doo. Brian, how do you feel about this the conference the NBA matchups we have?
Anybody but the Knicks.
So we're gonna look for Pacers Timberwolves. What would Pacers Thunder be online for like the lowest ratings ever?
Wait, who? Pacers Thunder?
Yeah, I mean, like, I kind of associate Minneapolis being the bigger market. So I feel like Timberwolves and Karl Anthony Towns. I don't think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would has the same star power yet as Cat.
Um, that whole series should be played on NBA TV.
Don't be ratings guy.
No,
no
I'm
one,
not. I'm
no,
not.
No fans care about
I'm
ratings.
joking. I'm doing a bit.
A little bit.
Finals.
It's a little bit because the NBA loves doing this to themselves. And like I do have a little bit of a empathy towards the Pacers because I feel like if anyone is close to being built like the 04 Pistons team, it is the Pacers. Like Tyrese Haliburton isn't that star, isn't like a star in the way that like Jalen Brunson or Karl Anthony Towns or SGA is. This Pacers team is very much so just good roster construction.
All right, hold on.
I can't add to this conversation. The only team I know anything about is the Knicks, and I'm with Ryan. It's anyone but the Knicks.
Anyone but the Knicks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the cool aspect that like the Knicks haven't won a title since the 70s, and these other three teams haven't ever won an NBA title, right? And it's an interesting argument that goes back to, remember, like in the late 2010s when it seemed like every year it was like LeBron versus the Warriors. Yeah. And everybody's like, I'm so sick of dynasties in basketball. And then like I've seen so many people be like, oh, like look at all these like little market teams playing in. I'm like,
you can't please.
You don't like basketball. You don't like basketball.
Right.
Just say you don't like basketball, or just say you like being grouchy and like.
Sorry, I said Cat. I meant Anthony Edwards. Sorry, don't mind me.
Yeah, but
that is super annoying. People just like they can't figure out what they want and what they don't want, and they just want to complain.
Yes, that's all they want.
What is an ideal matchup for someone like that? There isn't one. You can't come up with one that's going to make.
No, I like to say all the time. This is like they want to book this shit like it's WWE.
Yeah.
Well, everything is wrestling.
Is Scotty Scheffler wrestling?
No, but I have a bone to pick real quick about. Man, I think that game was on. Was it on TNT or was it on ESPN? The hockey game, Stars Jets.
I don't know.
Oh,
I can't remember which one it was on.
I think it was on TNT. It was on TNT.
Like the story with Mark Scheifele and his father unexpectedly passing away the morning of the game 6. Like, if you're the camera operator, like why are you like just hyper focused on him in the penalty box and like especially him like through the handshake line? Like,
oh, I didn't realize he was the guy who had the penalty that led to the game winner.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And it was brutal. Like they were cutting back to it too much. It's like just focus on the Stars. Like they won this game in overtime. Like just show them a bunch. Like don't do this to this guy. Like this is maybe like one of the lowest points of his entire life.
Yeah. That's
like
rough.
And it was tough. It was heartbreaking.
He scored the first game of the goal of the game, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Scored the first goal of the game. Then he takes that penalty at the end of regulation, and then he's sitting in the box to begin overtime, and the Stars score that goal.
Speaking about tough, that's basically the rest of these game 7s. Like,
it was not a good weekend of sports, honestly.
No, like the Nuggets got thrashed around. The Celtics, I mean, it wasn't game 7, but we kind of expected that to happen. Panthers thrashed around the Leafs. Even like,
no, but we love that. We love that, Chris.
No, there's Schadenfreude for that. Don't get me wrong, completely. There's Schadenfreude, but at least with like a competitive series. Even the PGA Championship, because I've got a shoehorn in golf in here somewhere. Like, it looked like there was going to be some John Rahm, Scotty Scheffler drama to end, and then John just fucking put it in the water. Double bogey at the Green Mile, and even before that, Scheffler was just on fire. Like, I think he ended up with like a 5-stroke lead to win the championship. Wasn't even close.
Yeah, that was cool. But the moment that I saw Drake put $1.25 million on the Leafs to win Game 7 was the moment I took the rest of the money in my ESPN bet account and put it on the Florida Panthers.
There's some guys, man, the voice we call it.
The funny thing, I don't know if you guys saw any of this, but so Justin Bieber was sitting behind the Leafs bench, and Drake blamed the Leafs losing on Justin Bieber. Like, he put it on his Instagram story and said, Justin Bieber curse.
Is he the least self-aware person in the world, or is he the most self-aware person in the world? I can't tell.
Yeah, it's one or the other, right?
All right.
Sorry, one last thing, and it's really small. Did you see? So, like, in all of this too, I saw a really funny story. So, like, you know how we're doing these regional rivalries weekend for baseball, just because, like, you have 3 in-city rivalries because between Dodgers, Angels, White Sox, Cubs, Mets, Yankees. So they force everyone else into regional rivalries. Like, I guess the Tigers have to play the Blue Jays because I guess Canada got mad. There were Tigers fans back in the 80s or something in Ontario. But ESPN was originally like gonna mic up Juan Soto for the Subway Series. Because he had, he goes from the Yankees, he goes to the Mets. Kind of a big deal considering like the Yankees were even offering, I think, more money. He was going to talk about Aaron Judge and everything. And then at the last minute, I think Andrew Marchand reported they decided to change it, and oh God, who is it? Who is it from the Mets they mic'd up instead? I forget his first name, but it's Nimmo.
Brandon Nimmo.
Brandon Nimmo. They mic'd up Brandon Nimmo instead of Juan Soto at like the last second. Which, like, miking up these guys during big baseball games is always really stupid. But also, B, like, come on, that's soft.
Whose decision was it?
Great question. I don't think ESPN wanted to get rid of talking to Juan Soto about why he's a traitor from the New York Yankees, though.
I wouldn't want to do that if I was Juan Soto, because what could you possibly say that isn't going to just get absolutely smashed? And like ESPN isn't going. First of all, you mic up Juan Soto. You're not, like, if he says something controversial, which he probably doesn't, you're not going to put that on TV. You're just not. You're not going to bury a player like that. They never, like, it's always like the mic'd up stuff that they play live is always just like the most boring regular stuff.
Well, it's gone from being like, it used to be like back in the day, like, let's mic up Justin Verlander and talk to him when he's on a day off pitching. Now it's Ryan. It's like, yeah, we're going to mic up guys who are out in the field trying to play the game and ask our questions while the game's going on.
It's not like the most glowing endorsement for like, oh, you really got to be locked in to play baseball. Like your guy in center field who's like, hold on a second, I'm going to go track down this ball real quick. The thing I loved about watching that game yesterday, though, is like every time I see Cody Bellinger, I'm reminded that Tyler Shuck, who just got drafted by the New Orleans Saints, played on the same baseball team growing up. Cody Bellinger's on his 9th MLB season. That's Tyler wild. Shuck has just entered the NFL.
That's wow. So good.
I don't know. It's strange times.
Tigers lead the majors, though.
They do. All right, I got a bunch of alerts to still get through.
Swept. Holy.
Go for it.
I think we should talk Caleb Williams a little bit. If you want, we can save that for the second segment break. But I feel like we got to talk.
Why not just talk about it now? And we're not going to have a.
We're just doing 2 segments. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That works.
We won't even talk about Angel Reese or whatever. We'll just go straight to Caleb Williams.
Don't. I'll get in trouble.
I did like your line, Ryan. And I used it. I borrowed it. And I should give you credit. I used it on the air a couple times. I'm just saying. I liked Ryan. X pushed Ryan's tweet to me that you should have let Angel Reese miss the layup. And I took that and ran with it. So thank you, Ryan, because it was a great point. It's a fantastic point.
AP Durag, thank you for the 14 months, says, do you think the Pencil Man could achieve a positive record coaching the current roster?
No. He would find a way to screw it up.
Yeah.
Because, as you shared, Jeremy, is that Kabinda talking about the Darius Slay stuff?
Yeah.
He would find a way to screw it up.
By the way, someone pointed out, like, that wasn't even a game. That was joint practices.
It was joint practice, yeah.
Talking about practice, man. Talking about practice.
Like, handling it in what I would consider to be the worst way possible.
Right. And listen, like, you could send a message there that might be needed, right? Like, hey, lock in, man. Like, we need you fully focused. Like, this is the work that we put in now is going to affect the work that we do in December. And like, there is a way to deliver that message without being like, let's watch clips of, like, let's publicly embarrass one of our own players and maybe that'll make him put his head on straight.
Yeah, let's do this in front of 89 of his coworkers.
Right. One of the best players on the team, by the way. One of the guys that probably deserves one of the most respect in the room. Let's dunk on him. Yeah. It's like, what are you doing? Like, and
who would Matt Patricia do that to on the current team?
Like Amon-Ra? Like, Amon-Ra,
he would have.
You're exchanging jerseys. Let me all the times that, so and so had you locked up.
There would have been a homicide between Amon-Ra and Matt Patricia at this point. Or at the very least, maybe an Antonio Brown firing gun.
The thing that he didn't seem to understand about Darius Slay is that Slay can turn it on and off in an instant. He doesn't need, like, he can joke around with a teammate, with a guy on the other team for a second and lock him down. Like, he had built up enough credibility over his career where you should have been able to trust him that, okay, yeah, maybe OBJ got the best of him
in joint practice.
In joint practices, that he could turn it around. And it's that critical part of coaching that I don't think a lot of people get, which is you have to coach players individually. You have to understand them on a personal level so that you know which guys require the stick, which guys require the carrot, right? Because it is different. Like, maybe there are players that would respond to what he did in a positive way. Maybe that does wake them up. It snaps them out of it. But to do that to a guy who had been doing it for 6, 7, 8 years in the league at that point, just utterly stupid.
Yeah. And what year did that happen?
I don't know. I mean, he took over in 2018. So probably 2018. I would imagine.
I'm trying to remember just the timeline real quick.
While I do that, I'm going to read more alerts so that we can just be done with them.
Yeah, that happened in 2020.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt and being like, you can do that stuff, but like once you've like established a rapport with somebody and like you know how they tick, right? And it's like, oh well, clearly he'd been around the guy for a couple years and still didn't understand him. So
just a dummy. Thomas J. Hutchins, 27 months. Caitlin Rose, 19 months, says needed the NSFW warning. I think that was for the meat all over our bodies comment. Mighty 2 Hottie, 42 months, says Ryan, what week does the trade for Trey go down?
I said week 0. It's going to happen before the season starts.
He just doesn't want to go to training camp, Trey?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
MN UFC, 49 months, is ready for the Hooker to Slaw connection this summer. Preseason going to be lit. 4 games. Lions are just going to like lead the league in so many preseason stats just by
like
nature of
old
having
times.
an extra game. And then Lord Goofa. What's up, buddy? 36 months,
Goof.
3 years, says, well, look what has happened. 3 years? All right. We're caught up.
All right. So we just have to talk about Caleb Williams stuff.
Caleb.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And as a precursor to that, I just want to share one of my favorite tweets because I didn't have a chance to talk to you guys about how dumb it was that every NFL person tried to have the NFL draft should have a lottery take after what happened with the NBA
fuck those
lottery.
people.
Including Mike Greenberg, but I just want to say my favorite tweet was, imagine what a franchise who had won like 2 games would do if they went from having a generational quarterback to picking 6. And they said they would make that fan base would make January 6th look like a picnic.
Imagine if we did that to like the Packers. Like, imagine if we did that to the Bears. You know?
Well, good segue, but yeah.
I specifically didn't watch the Mike Greenberg thing because I thought it was bait.
It was bait. It was fucking bait. It's
everyone
all,
took it.
And
Everyone
Schefter
took
pushing it should have let you know it was fucking bait. They know what they're doing because they don't give a fuck what it does to the NFL. All they care about is, hey, ESPN executives, looks, we're pimping for you to have a ratings bonanza night of an NFL draft lottery night. It doesn't matter if it will make the league fucking dog shit. It just matters because you'll get a good ratings bump.
Right.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's the NBA draft lottery. It's also rigged, but yeah, go ahead, Jeremy.
It's also extremely rigged. Yes.
Yeah.
And you're not telling me that won't be extremely rigged for the Cowboys. The NFL will rig the shit out of the lottery, and they won't even apologize for it.
I'm pulling the ripcord on this conversation right now.
So where would they have put Caleb Williams in, Jeremy, if they would have had an NFL draft lottery?
Not in Cleveland, apparently, or Chicago, apparently, because
or Cleveland either.
Probably not Cleveland. You'd probably be even more pissed if it was Cleveland. No, I mean, okay, so that stuff is interesting, right? Like the fact that he was on the verge of either like nuking the city of Chicago, not literally, but like just shitting on it publicly, which would have been fascinating to see.
I like
or
the idea
playing in the
he would have
UFL.
gone to the UFL.
I like the idea of him playing
imagine-
for the Memphis Showboats. Like, I like that idea.
Birmingham Stallions selling out Legion Field every weekend. Rickety ass Legion Field just filled up.
Caleb Williams was Bryce Perkins, baby.
The thing is that Caleb Williams' play style in his rookie season would have worked like it would have been incredible in the UFL.
Yeah.
It would have been amazing.
I don't know if anyone would have seen it, but it would have been amazing.
It's on ESPN.
Dude, people would have tuned in for Caleb Williams.
No, they wouldn't have.
Yes,
I
they
mean,
would.
maybe they would have. Maybe they would.
They would. This would have been like Herschel Walker going to the original USFL.
Do you know what's
that good of a prospect though?
Okay, but like the problem is like the original USFL, I could have also said Steve Young or Doug Flutie. Like a bunch of guys went to USFL because they were throwing around the money.
Right.
But like there's not a 1-to-1. I've just picked a name. Anyway, go on, Ryan.
No, I just want to say I tweeted about this and I was like, I feel like this isn't a big enough story. I feel like this should be a bigger story.
I've seen it kind of also going the other way where a Bears friend of mine was trying to play it off as like, look, this story just proves how bad Eberflus was. Because look, Eberflus and Shane Waldron weren't sitting down with him and watching tape with him. Because there was like one paragraph in there where he's watching tape alone or something. That is bad. That is really bad. And I think that there is a kernel of truth, if we want to be fair about it, that was the state of the Bears with that coaching staff, and some of that isn't true with Ben Johnson. But guess what? That front office is still the same fucking front office.
Right. It like the reason Caleb Williams didn't want to go to Chicago was not the 2.5 years that had happened in Chicago under Eberflus. It was the 50, 60, 70 years of not having a good, it's the the Pope joke of they haven't had a 4,000 yard quarterback. That is not just on Matt Eberflus.
If this story had been about he didn't want to go to the Cleveland Browns and he was thinking about going to the UFL rather than playing for the Cleveland Browns, nobody would have batted an eye about this. Everyone would be like, yeah, Caleb's in the right about that. Caleb's in the right about that. Because of Chicago, we have to act like, oh my God, he didn't want to go to Chicago? How unsavory.
I mean, I think a lot of people, but listen, I mean, the thing is, 10 years ago, the same kind of stories were happening here in Detroit, right?
Lions,
It was,
sure,
I mean,
yeah.
it was Nate Burleson. He tells the story all the time where when he signed in Detroit, like people within the Lions locker room were like, dude, why did you sign here? This is where careers go to die.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you look through history, it's John Elway saying, I'm not playing for the Colts. Don't draft me, Colts. I will go play baseball. Like,
The question,
yeah.
but like,
or
to me,
Manning and Phillip Rivers and their situations.
to me, the question is that a knock on football character? Is that a knock? Like, because I think like that attitude would piss Dan Campbell off, right? You should just be grateful for the opportunity. You should be grateful for a chance. Like, I want a guy who just wants to be on the field. Doesn't matter what jersey he's wearing. Doesn't matter what field he's on. I want him to have the competitive nature. You're like, yes, this team has had decades of failure. I want to be the one to turn it around.
Well, and I guess there was in that article there was a attitude change from Caleb Williams and maybe his father. I didn't see that part. Like once they had actually met with the Bears organization, that this whole thing about they didn't want to go to the Bears was kind of before they had talked with, like very early in the draft process, basically. But yeah, like that is kind of like, why don't you see yourself as the guy who's going to save this malcontent team?
And fair or not, I would say mostly unfair. Before he even got to Chicago, he had a soft reputation, right? Again,
Definitely
I don't think it was fair.
It's not fair. Not fair at all.
It's the stupid painting of the fingernails thing. It's the stupid crying after a loss thing. Like, I don't have a problem with either of those things. But I would say now this of like, I don't want to play for this shitty team. I think this adds on to what was already like an existing narrative about him.
But that is like a real thing where I can point out and be like,
Correct.
oh, that's kind of soft.
Yes, I agree. I think this is the first legit, hey, I don't like that attitude. You need to be more. Yeah. And listen, like, I don't want to bag on a 21-year-old. Like, I probably felt some stupid shit when I was 21 too. But I'm just like, if you want to be best of the best, competitive of the most competitive, like you got to step up and you got to realize.
I think the bigger story was like that he and his father thought they could just rewrite the rookie contract rules on a whim to get more money. Like this was fucking USC and NIL.
Does his dad have like some Lonzo Ball to him? I haven't followed him very much.
I don't know, but it clearly kind of just the whole story underscores and reiterates like how you're not just drafting the player.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you're drafting everything that comes with said player. It's entourage, it's family. In this case, an extremely overbearing father who like on one hand, as a dad, like I would want to see like my son in the best situation to succeed. I totally get that.
Sure.
Yeah.
However, it's my son's career. Like he's getting drafted first overall. Like as far as him being taken care of financially, he'll be just okay.
It's interesting. One of the most interesting things I heard a Lions, and I'm trying to remember the director of college scouting, Brian Hudspeth. He did that interview with Tim Twentyman and talked about NIL and how it's changed things. And one of like the positive spins he had on it is like, now we get to see how these players act when they have money. Now, when they have fame, when they have like the spotlight in ways that they didn't before, we get to see their entourage. We get to see who's all over them. And
I know that was a big knock. Sorry,
I was gonna say that might have been a piece of the puzzle for Caleb. What do you have, 1 or 2 years of the NIL era? Like,
yeah, I mean that was the big thing with Shedeur Sanders, right? Was the attitude about him in a lot of these meetings with teams reportedly, and where he was going to land, and like just kind of the like there was that quote for him for day one. It's like, this isn't how we all knew this was supposed to go. And stuff like that. Like there's definitely this kind of new attitude where you've got money and you've got all this stuff swirled away from NIL and expectations, where there is definitely a different attitude for some players when it comes to approaching the draft.
And I don't know if it was Wickersham or just the reporting or what. It was just interesting how it. Well, I mean, it's not just the reporting or way that the story is being told. It was like Caleb Williams' father calling Archie Manning to be like, "How'd you do it with Eli?"
Right.
Like,
Right.
and it was like, what's it? All right, if that's not going to work, then what other like, what other play can we pull out of the playbook? Oh, let's do what John Elway and his father did and just trash the city of Baltimore. Like,
let me ask you this: do you think a player could get away with this like in the modern era? Because both examples you gave were 30+ years old, right? Like,
I know.
Can you do that? Do you think a number one guy, he's going to the Cleveland Browns? Is there a way that guy can legitimately talk his way out of it?
I think if Sanders had the talent, the actual talent, and not just being a mid son of a bitch, and B, his father more throwing his weight around, yes.
Here,
like if Deion Sanders, if Shadur Sanders had been a bona fide number one overall can't miss generational prospect, and you had the power of a media connected father like Deion Sanders behind him, yes, they would have tried that.
Well, it's interesting because Elway was in 83 and Eli was in 2004. You know what I mean? So it's like history constantly repeats itself.
I guess that was
the
only
big thing about Eli where that succeeded was that they actually had a dance partner and that he lucked out because Phillip Rivers did not want to go to New York.
Yeah.
So like they could, what a coincidence that somehow works out. It's like, I've got a quarterback who doesn't want to play here in New York. Well, I've got a quarterback here who doesn't want to play in San Diego. Let's flip him around.
Yeah. I think the story says a lot about Ryan Poles too, because if I'm Ryan Poles, right, I think going into that draft process, yes, like Caleb Williams was the number one pick, but you got that pick from Carolina. Like the whole buildup to that draft pick was like, maybe the Bears can flip this draft pick. And like, maybe the smart thing to do is like, if you're not 100% sold on Caleb Williams, like, even if there's like a 5%, like, I don't know about this guy, which clearly, like, if dad is calling Ryan Poles and being like, I don't want my son to play for you, like, shouldn't that be enough for Ryan Poles to be like, okay, we can just keep that tucked away?
Right.
I'm going to get on the horn and see what kind of, if they got the package that they got for a team like the Panthers to move up to take Bryce Young, what were they going to get for a team to move up and take Caleb Williams number one overall?
That is very true. They could have had this multi-year.
This quarterback effing hates us. Maybe let's take a longer look at Jaden Daniels, which may have been the right pick anyway.
That is actually very true. Yes.
Like, so it just kind of speaks to like the stubbornness of like, we're going to draft you and like, you don't have a say in it. And it's like, well, why don't you think about what might be best for you?
Yeah. Well, they're both still there now.
But they did get Ben Johnson. So everything's good now and the Lions suck.
That's right. Do you guys take anything like, okay, so actually we don't need to talk about it much. The other point I wanted to bring up was, I think it was, oh God, who was it? The point that he didn't watch film, right? Or he didn't know how to watch film. And then Dan Orlovsky talks to, who was it? He talked to a media guy and told the story about how he was
talking about Jared Goff.
As a USC guy, like that's incredibly damning on Lincoln Riley too.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, the fact that Jared Goff went through something similar when first year with Jeff Fisher, right? Was his coach's rookie season. Yeah. It was a terrible rookie season. He didn't win a football game and he played terribly. And then, Sean McVay, the guy that we all kind of criticize on our own a little bit of like, hey, you held his hand too much. He actually didn't hold his hand all that much, at least in his rookie year, where he's like, let me just sign Dan Orlovsky to be a coach, to be an assistant coach, and teach this guy how to watch film. He didn't know what oversets were, undersets were, which is, I mean, like that sort of stuff is fascinating to hear because all the time you're heard about like you hear about the knowledge gap between fans and players, and like sometimes it might not be as big as you think it is. And it did change my perception a little bit of Sean McVay. It changed my perception a little bit of Dan Orlovsky, and then it also reiterated the fact that, hey guys, signing a veteran quarterback to be your quarterback 3 to just kind of be a coach is a real thing. So like when you sign a guy that you hate as a backup quarterback and you think he has no chance to win the backup quarterback job, I might be referencing a certain team this offseason. Maybe the entire edition is more about just having a smart guy who knows football to have an extra set of eyes for your starter and your backup that is developmental.
Well, doesn't mean that the team's going to trade the backup quarterback.
It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that, believe it or not. Maybe Kyle Allen is Dan Orlovsky is what I'm saying. And I'm not saying Jared Goff needs another hand-holding. For all we know, it could be like, that could be the situation with Hendon right now. Let's teach Hendon how to watch film.
Maybe they're just worried about the kind of diet that Jared Goff's on. Maybe they want him to just eat incredibly bland food. So they hire somebody like Dan Orlovsky.
Oh, okay. It took me a second there.
Cream cheese too spicy.
I don't know if I like or hate the fact that he's leaning into it now. Like, on one hand, I'm like, okay, I get like
they've been doing it for like a year.
Yeah, that's true.
Plus,
on one hand, I'm glad that you're admitting that it's terrible, but like now I feel like you're exaggerating it. Doesn't he like eat the peanut butter out of a Reese's peanut butter cup and that's it? Like,
dude,
he spits out the
like
chocolate.
They had an ad for someone.
No.
For something like him.
What?
Like, they had they had an ad for him being, I forget for what kind of snack company, but it was an ESPN ad for a snack company about, but will Dan Orlovsky like it?
Okay, but rewind to the part where you said he eats the peanut butter out of a Reese's cup and doesn't eat the chocolate?
Yeah, he leaves the chocolate there. He leaves the chocolate there. He hollows it out.
All right. Avert your eyes if you don't want to see some graphic footage.
There's a video of this?
There is, by Ryan Clark. You've been forewarned. This is where I almost feel like he's playing it up and maybe not being true to himself.
So you wait.
I'm gonna make.
So
some
what are you
delicious
spitting
cereal.
out though?
I'm not
Chocolates?
Wait, you're just eating the peanut
So you're just trying to eat the peanut butter?
No. Stop. Why are you recording
What
a
you gonna do
grown
with the
man
top of it?
spitting out candy?
Eat it.
This is all a bit.
I think it's all a bit.
what
I think you're
part
right.
This is all a bit.
Chocolate. I don't like milk chocolate.
Because nobody
cool.
acts like that in
Right.
the real world. Like
Right.
nobody would do this at
No.
like a lunch table.
If you don't
You
like
say
milk
this, Ryan,
chocolate
but
and you only like peanut butter, you just buy peanut butter. You do not buy a Reese's and then chew off. Like, it's not like it's not even
hold
like
on,
Reese's
hold
peanut
on.
butter is like a step above all the other peanut butters.
You guys say this, but you know what the new health craze is on TikTok? It's apparently water-based diets.
That's fasting.
No, that's soup. It's like instead of cooking with oils, it's cooking with water, and that's soup. We call that soup. But
Okay.
according to people on TikTok, it's a water-based diet, and it leaves your skin clean. It leaves your skin clear, and you get over illnesses within a night, and
Like
your
it's-
stomach no longer hurts.
It's more socially acceptable if you were to just take a spoon and scoop out some peanut butter and eat the peanut butter off a spoon.
I hope so, because I do that.
But I mean, like, you wouldn't do what he was doing on that video if you're just like sitting around the lunch table.
Right. I agree.
Without people like bullying you relentlessly. And Dan Orlovsky grew up at a time where people would get bullied for stuff like that. I think you'd get bullied for stuff like that today.
And I usually don't take the side of bullies, but
No. Yes.
I do.
In that case, yes. Because that's gross. What are you doing? You're spitting out food where I'm eating.
Yeah.
Like, dude, what a weird guy.
yeah. Anyways.
Good for him, though.
Good for him. Good for him.
I guess.
All right, let's get back to it. Thanks for
Oh, we're
indulging
still
us,
doing a
chat.
podcast. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe.
Pride Detroit PODcast. So we had some coaching press conferences this past week along with the schedule reveal. We're going to talk a little bit about that and some points that came out of there. Let's start with impressions of the new staff. Can I start with David Shaw, the passing game coordinator? This is always a fascinating one, Jeremy, because at least for me working on the West Coast, if I've gotten any, if I've been asked about one new coaching pickup for the Lions the most, it is David Shaw, just because of how his time at Stanford ended.
Yeah.
And some doom regarding that. But my argument always to that is it's a passing game coordinator, which is a big role. It is a very big role. Don't get me wrong. I don't know if it's, and I'm sure that word probably throws people for a loop because David Shaw's Stanford teams were kind of always considered much more of just being, in the dirt, run on the ground, old school football, much like the guy he took over for, Jim Harbaugh. They did kind of decay through there, but let's talk about your impressions about him as a passing game coordinator before I completely just kind of start going into the weeds here.
Well, yeah, I mean, his time in Stanford was kind of like defined by two offensive Hall of Fame type of players, right? Like,
no, it was defined by he had Jim Harbaugh's guys, and then the time after he had Jim Harbaugh's guys.
But he had a successful run for 10 years, so it wasn't just Jim Harbaugh's guys. So like he had Andrew Luck, he had Christian McCaffrey, right? Like, so they were a really big, heavy run team when Christian McCaffrey there, and I think there was some overlap as well. But like they also threw the ball pretty darn well when they had Andrew Luck. But what I found really fascinating, and I think the important thing to note here is like this is the first time we got to meet a lot of these coaches, the new coaches that are here, and so I get my first impressions of Shaw, and I think there was two things that stuck out to me with his presser, and the first was him talking about his time in Stanford, where he was getting every single year 3 interview requests to be an NFL head coach, and he turned them down every single time. Did not even do it once because he wanted to kind of finish what he was doing. And so, that sort of loyalty speaks to me a little bit. That sort of idea that, he even said, like, I've always wanted to go to the NFL. It's always been a goal of mine to be an NFL head coach and do it at the highest level, but it just wasn't the right time. I was in a position that I was very comfortable with, love Stanford. And listen, loyalty is feels like a lost art sometimes when you see college coaches jumping before their bowl game, right? Just to get at the next opportunity. And so I respected that. And then the other thing is like the connection to John Morton. They go back 30 years, back when they were working with John Gruden and the Raiders. And so I don't know. I think it says a lot that the Lions, I can't speak to this guy's X's and O's and how much extra he'll bring to the passing game coordinator, but I think him being as close to John Morton, I think if you have any concerns about John Morton, if you have any questions about John Morton, we were talking about it a little bit in our break here, like, a lot of people are wondering if the offense is going to take a step back under John Morton, what he's going to look like in terms of a play caller, in terms of fourth down and all that sort of stuff. I think having David Shaw, a guy who's very comfortable with him side by side, takes a little bit of load off his shoulders. And I think that's something not to overlook. It almost feels like the Lions gave John Morton a little ownership of like, hey, you want to build out this offense? Hey, you want to bring in a guy who you've been pals with for 3 decades? Let's do that. Make you a little bit comfortable.
Yeah. Chris, do you have anything else on Shaw? Because I had a question about another coach.
No, I think I think just kind of the story, just it's very fascinating. Just, you get a former college coach and just a lot of the questions that come with him because you've seen him and do all this stuff, and now he's in a passing game role. But yeah, what's the question you have?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's also just fascinating because you got hashtag couple local guys, hashtag coming home. Anyways, the question I had is like, what were your first impressions of Casey Rogers? Because I think that's a coach that everybody was really excited as like a big get for the Lions, especially when they lose, somebody like Terrell Williams
Yeah, this is gonna sound a little bit mean, but like I'm still eager to see what everyone else sees in him. And listen, probably he hasn't done a ton of press conferences in his life. Generally, defensive line coaches don't. I mean, you get him maybe once a month, maybe once every couple months. And I think, and of course, his relationship with the media can be entirely different than his relationship with his players. In fact, I'm almost certain it is. But like, I don't know. Like I didn't, I will say this. Last week, there were a ton of spectacular press conferences. Like a bunch of the new coaches, some of them blew me away. Some of them you knew, like Kelvin Shepherd is always great when he's up there. Casey Rogers was kind of forgettable. And again, that doesn't say anything about him as a coach. It doesn't say anything about his ability to do his job as defensive line coach. It's just like, I was really eager for that one. And I'm like, oh, that was pretty normal. Like that was nothing to get like super excited about or super upset about. And again, I want to be clear. That doesn't speak anything about his credibility to do the job that he does. I was just like, he doesn't fit that mold of like, I guess maybe this is the best way I can say it. Like, I don't see him as like a future defensive coordinator. I don't see him as a future head coach, as a delegator type. I see him as a guy that's probably very much a technician in his position, like a Hank Fraley type, where it's just like, he's probably best served in the role that he's currently at because he kicks ass at that and doesn't need all the bells and whistles of being a guy that stands in the front of the room and slams his fist on the podium to get everyone's attention.
I saw an awful lot of stories being generated out of the things that Tashard Choice had to say, though. Like, would you say that his interview or his press conference is something that stood out?
A++. Like, I love this guy already. I mean, first of all, I don't think they showed this on the video of it. If you guys have watched all the videos of it, he went and shook the hands of every reporter in the first row there. It was just like, hey, nice to meet you. Let me. What's your name? That sort of thing. Like bold introductions like that. I think go a long ways in showing that you care. But like he's young, he's full of energy. Kelvin Shepherd's best friend, so like there's going to be a lot of fun back and forth. There was fun back and forth just on the press conferences.
Oh man, so it's kind of like a callback to Aaron Glenn Staley.
Absolutely,
Aww.
It's 2.0.
The hits,
100%. And also, he was the guy that stood out most during rookie minicamp. Like he was just shouting, but like not like in an angry way. Like he is just like, you can tell that guy loves the game of football. You can tell he on some level he probably wishes he was out there with the pads on himself. And obviously, like the Jahmyr Gibbs stuff is like a fairy tale, right? A guy that he's been close with so long, and just, I mean, he was along with Tyler Roll. It felt like he was in such a comfortable position coaching, where it's just like, I don't know if this guy's ever gonna leave where he's at. He's so good, but he always had, I think, an eye on this Lions job, not just because of the running back here, not just because they're a good football team, but because Kelvin Shepherd told him how fun it is to be here, to how much this culture is allowing you to be yourself, baby, allowing you to just be the best possible coach. And the fact that they, again, like the inside track to making your career skyrocket, right? Kelvin Shepherd is a perfect example of that, where he went from almost instantaneously a player to a positional coach to a different positional coach to a defensive coordinator in the blink of an eye. Some people take decades to get to where he was, and because the Lions care so much about not just player development but coach development, you get a guy like Tashard Choice, who has been a hot name. Like, he has been a guy who has had other opportunities in the NFL, and that's why I say I think he was so comfortable where he was in college that he was only going to jump at the perfect opportunity. And lucky for Detroit, they've built a really good community to foster people like him.
This was, to go back, like, what is this now, 3-4 years now, Jeremy? This was what I talked about like when the Lions hired Dan Campbell. This was, and put together their first coaching staff. This was the thesis, right? Yeah. This was the thesis. Like, what if instead of going after career guys who came up from quality assistant to like just, guys upstairs who had been analysts all this time, being your coordinators, being your coaches, why don't, like, what happens when you start stocking a lot of the guys who were former NFL players who have been trying to, looking for all this time for coaching jobs? What happens then? And I think Tashard Choice is kind of like the example A of like, okay, well, you've got a culture where suddenly everyone, like, people want to come here. They want to coach for the Detroit Lions, and they like where they're at. Like,
Yeah.
Funny enough, we were just talking about this with like Nate Burleson during the break. It's like you've gone from those 2000s Lions where nobody wanted to be there to you've got guys who want to like play here, then become coaches here.
Right. And then become
Like,
head
it's
coaches,
fun.
right? Like that's
And then become head coaches. Yeah.
now there's proof of concept where you can come to Detroit, you can win football games, you can get promotions, and then you can get the head coaching job you've always dreamed of. There is a clear path to that happening, and it'll probably be frustrating from the Lions' point of view where they're going to see a lot of guys come in here and immediately go somewhere else and get a promotion. It's already happened the last couple of years, but it also means that the coaches that were looking for the perfect opportunity before they jumped from their current situation, the guys that are up and coming, they're going to want to land here. And on top of that, Dan Campbell has proven he can find those guys.
Yeah. Well, Brad Holmes has also proven to be able to find guys too. And I'm sure Tashard Choice on top of like, hey, great environment, culture with coaches, it's pretty easy to be like, oh, I want to strap my wagon to Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery.
Right.
I'm going to be fascinated to see how that continues to happen as Campbell gets farther away from his playing days, right? Like I'm genuinely curious, and I think he's still going to like he's young enough at least in the coaching circles where it's like he's at least still got a lot of those connections, and he's going to, I think, continue to have those connections and keep building those, given his personality and everything. I just find that particular part fascinating.
But
like,
I
this
think
is still kind of an early part to his career.
And I think if you look at the staff, maybe something that I feel like we haven't really talked about much, I just talked about it with Morton, like it's trusting your coordinators to go out there and get guys that they know, that they like.
Yeah.
So you go out and you get Tashard Choice, who's Kelvin Shepard's best friend. You go and get David Shaw, who is someone that maybe is essential to what John Morton is going to be doing. Like, again, it's the delegation. It's the trusting the guys that are, your subordinates technically, but in powers of position to make sure that they're hiring the right guys to work with them.
Can we talk about a couple things with the players now that came up from these meetings?
Sure.
Let's actually start with Ennis Raikstraw from the notes.
Yeah.
We do know from the talks that Ennis Raikstraw, who had been, basically been drafted, and I think our profile on him was going to be a slot corner, but he is focusing now apparently on outside CB, and Avonte Maddox is pretty much safety 3 at this point. So I want to focus on Raikstraw here, Jeremy. Do you like this move a lot? It's this kind of, it feels iffy a little bit to me. It's kind of like we're getting into what's happening with the offensive line, where we're trying a lot of guards out to try to cross-train them at center, where like I just feel like a guy like Ratledge is purely set up for a guard, but Raikstraw missed most of his rookie year, missed a lot of time, didn't really have a lot out there, and like as much as I think the future is for him at slot, they're pretty much set on trying him more as an outside corner.
Yeah, it was surprising for me to hear that, and just kind of hearing you lay out the situation, I was skeptical about it, and I still am a little bit. But it almost reminds me of them moving Brian Branch to safety last year, and we're like, why are you doing that?
Oh yeah,
really
we all doubted that. Yeah,
at nickel, and then like, oh, that's why he did it, because he's also really good there.
Branch had at least had the career of safety to back it up from his college days. He played a little bit of safety
and
in college.
Ennis has played
yeah.
the outside too, so like that is, it's not going to be an unfamiliar position with him. It's just, to me, if that's what you're focusing on, my question is maybe that is how you view him long term, and if that's the case, you spend a second round pick on a guy who's going to be CB3 for the next 3 years, right? Like, you have DJ Reed, you have Terrion Arnold. There's not room for him to break through the starting lineup. But maybe it is more like the Tate Ratledge situation, where you're just like, let's make this guy versatile. so that when eventually he becomes the starting nickel after we move on from Amik next year, we can have him be Amik, where it's like, okay, if one of our starter goes, he can go out there and ball out at outside corner too. I was just surprised by it because I thought we were in for a camp competition at nickel, but Deshae Townsend made it sound pretty darn clear that like they really like what Amik did at the nickel last year. He's their guy.
I think it's a good point that you talk about training a guy at outside corner, even though he was on track to win the nickel job, because you have this positional versatility. I would also say it's a good problem to have outside corner depth, because there could be a DJ Reed injury. There could be a Tyrion Arnold injury. And
probably will be.
and if you have a guy that you can count on, like they did last year with Amik Robertson moving from nickel to outside corner, right?
Yeah.
And when that wasn't really on any of our bingo cards after, Amik played so many snaps at nickel during the preseason. Remember, you'd be watching preseason games last year and like, Amik Robertson's playing a lot of nickel cornerback, and why is he playing like into the second quarter?
Yeah.
And then when it really counted down the stretch, Amik Robertson played outside cornerback and made a huge difference for Detroit. And that's what you see here with Ennis Raikstraw. Now, the thing is, and I'm not trying to be too spicy, I'm just saying I feel like Ennis Raikstraw is a competitor. I'm not saying that, like, obviously I think DJ Reed is an outside starting cornerback, and I'm not taking anything away from Tyrion Arnold, but I am saying that, like, Ennis Raikstraw is going to want that job.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's going to take it from him just like that, but I am saying that, like, the cream will rise to the top. This is, I think this is also a way that you're going to get the best out of two guys that you drafted, in back-to-back rounds in the draft. And Ennis Raikstraw was a projected first-round pick until he fell, right?
Yeah. I guess my question is just, okay, yes, if someone on the outside gets injured, it'd be nice to have Ennis Raikstraw to go out there and fill that position. But you have that in Amik. That's what played out last year.
Right.
So what happens if Amik goes down?
Well,
who fills in the nickel?
Is it Ennis Raikstraw just because he was on track and he can be ready to do that? Because I think the thing is,
that's my overall point, is like, okay, if someone on the outside gets in, you can slide Amik there and be confident. If someone on the interior gets hurt, I don't have that confidence that Ennis can just take that role right away, especially now if they're like, be an outside corner. Just be an outside corner.
Yeah.
I'd rather have him be as well versed at nickel as the primary backup nickel, because they already have a primary backup outside guy.
The last thing I'll say about it is if that situation happens, if Amik Robertson gets hurt and it's like, oh man, if Ennis Raikstraw can't slide in and play nickel corner, and you have to, like, I don't know, move Brian Branch down to play nickel, and
it's probably
or Avonte Maddox plays nickel.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you have veterans you can trust, but like you hope that the young guy is going to be hungry enough to be prepared and be ready to take on that role. I'm more excited about this next topic, though, Chris.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's get on to it right now. The talk around Jameson Williams has been phenomenal. Already, I think even this Monday on X, I saw some people once again discussing what is the expectations for JMO heading into next season. Probably the biggest question on this Lions offense at this point. Bigger than anything else. And Detroit Lions coaches had plenty to say about that. John Morton, who we haven't talked really about much yet, and I think remains probably the most interesting piece of this Lions coaching staff about what is John Morton going to do. I'm curious how he's even going to handle stuff like fourth down play calling, because I know that's like something he's getting used to, because that's not exactly his styles to be that aggressive on fourth down. But John Morton did have a lot to say about having a weapon like Jameson Williams. And Jeremy, we know John Morton's style, at least when he was in New York, was a deep threat. Take the top off And I think he's just finally realizing what he can potentially unlock in Jameson Williams in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't have the necessary pieces where he was last time.
Yeah, like the word that kept coming up was unbelievable. Is all John Morton really had to say about JMO.
Well, yeah, I mean him and Dave, not David Montgomery,
Scotty.
Thank you, Montgomery. Both talked, and this is something that I feel like when we hear the coaches talk about JMO in the past 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, 3 years. No one has questioned like his want. No one has questioned his will, but never have I heard them talk about him like this, where Montgomery's saying he was here when I got back here, so that's a big deal to me. When I came off of a couple week break, we had JMO. He was already in here preparing. Talked about how, I think it was Montgomery who talked about a specific meeting like earlier in the week or the week before where he's asking good questions. He's asking the kind of attention to detail stuff that they've been looking for, like that. We're to a point where now like it feels like everything is clicking with him. Like the desire was always there, but like it was like attention to detail there. It was a step wrong there. Now they're talking about him like he's like everything is clicking, like he's understanding not only what he's supposed to do but why he's supposed to do it, and that's the sign of mastering something, right? Like it's one thing to just repeat the motions that you're being asked to do. It's another thing to understand why you're doing everything that you're doing and why everyone around you is doing what they're doing. And so the question is like, what does that look like on the field? What, I think one of the things that Scotty was talking about was like, okay, last year we saw the good, we saw the great, but then like the next week it would just be good, or the next week it would just be okay. Then it was great again. What does a season look like when JMO's great every week? And that is a question that I would love to see the answer to.
That's a question that seems like it comes with a lot of cha-chings and a lot of dollar signs, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could very well be.
We fixate on that quote from Brad Holmes saying like, hey, wide receivers are expensive. But I think it's important to point out, like, he left enough room there for JMO to change his mind, right? And I don't even want to act like his decision had been made there. Like, he was just like, hey, I don't know yet. And if JMO does the things John Morton specifically said, like, I expect a breakout year for him. I expect him to break out this year. And that sounds crazy to say for someone who basically had nothing to his name last year and then was a 1,000-yard receiver. But, like, a breakout from a 1,000-yard receiver is something that, probably comes with a pretty hefty price tag.
And I don't know if any of us ever read the Brad Holmes quote to be wide receivers are pretty expensive. They cost a pretty penny. If I have one, like this isn't part of the Brad Holmes quote, but it's like, if I have one worth paying, I'll pay him. You know what I mean? Right. Maybe that was the unsaid thing, right? Maybe. Like if JMO goes out and he is Aaron Schatz, another, 17 plus yard per reception receiver at 1,500 yards, well then, holy smokes. Yeah. Like you do have a Brandon Ayuk situation, right? Because I think that's pretty analogous to the problem that the Lions are going to run up against. And I hope that doesn't deter or that, and I don't think it would, but I don't think that would play any part in Brad Holmes' decision-making, right? Like you look at the 49ers, the tight end, the stud running back. The cheat code was that they had Brock Purdy on the, Mr. Irrelevant pay scale. And now that's a little bit different, that he's getting paid just as much money as Jared Goff, which
that's crazy.
Make of that what you will. But I think the thing is, like, the 49ers had the season they had last year. Brandon Ayuk got hurt, right? Like they made that decision to pay Brandon Ayuk. He got hurt. And then the 49ers took a real step back. And it's like, is that buyer beware? Or is that's just the breaks of doing business in the NFL?
Right.
So it's like, I don't think that would result in Brad Holmes being gun shy in pulling off any deal with Jameson Williams. But that's a conversation that doesn't even need to happen right now. Like Jamo's playing this year. It's not even a problem for concern. The 5th-year option next year. So I don't know. If Jamo plays to and exceeds expectations, right? If he's as unbelievable as John Morton is selling him to be over these next 2 seasons, like it would be a no-brainer that the Lions would pay Jameson Williams. In my opinion.
This is no. I'm just thinking about it because I'm thinking back to our earlier conversations where it just kind of felt like there was plenty of questions about paying Jameson Williams, and now we're kind of in this position where like I'm curious what the Lions would do if they're in this position where they have to pay someone like Jamo.
Be interesting. It'd be one of those really tough decisions, Jeremy, that Brad Holmes has to make. I mean, he made one really good decision with a wide receiver.
Yeah.
And it was to not pay that receiver.
Shout out Kenny Galladay, wherever you are.
So good.
But it's like we were talking about this just with the situation in Cincinnati, where it's like it's really hard to pay 2 top wide receivers. You've already locked yourself in with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and all this talk about Jamo kind of like leaves a bit of chopped liver for Amon-Ra, where it's like we know what you can do. But like now we're talking about this other guy a lot who is just we're trying to figure out what we can unlock with him in this offense. Because it's the one thing, Jeremy, the Lions never really had, and we talked about this even when they got Jamo and finally got him onto the field too. It's like this is the one thing they've never really had, which is the ability to go deep, to have like this deep threat with the offense.
Yeah. And we saw flashes of it last year. We saw great Jamo here and there. And it certainly sounds like they're expecting a lot more of a consistent Jamo this year.
Let's talk about, just to close out, let's talk about the offense in general with Johnny Morton. He says that the offense isn't going to be changing much. I mentioned the 4th down mentality. He says, quote, "I'm in the process of all of that situational football learning. Once we reach a certain place in the field, my mindset has to change." So he says, "Dan will let me know beforehand because it's important. It's a different mindset." So I guess the big question, I'm sure, in Detroit is how aggressive is this Lions offense really going to be?
Well, I think I was kind of surprised by that quote, and I was going to write something about it and didn't end up doing it. I probably still will. Him just being open and honest, like it's not how I viewed the game, but that's how I will view the game. Like that, I will defer to Dan Campbell, which is another kind of drop in the bucket of like, hey, remember that Dan Campbell's a part of this offense too. Remember that this is also his vision of the offense, and that's not going to change. Maybe it even takes over a little bit more early on while John Morton kind of finds his feet here. But yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting because there was kind of like 2 narratives coming from the Lions coaches regarding the offense last week. One is that exactly like, we're not going to mess with something that was good, right? We're just going to kind of continue what we're doing. Why mess with something that's good? And then I think it was David Chuck who kept saying this. He was like, last year is dead. Last year is dead. Let's stop talking about last year. It's a different set of coaches here. Like, we're not here to disrupt everything, but like, we got to stop talking about Ben Johnson. We got to stop. Like, this is now ours. We have to put our own little twist on it. We're not going to do anything drastic. We have the same kind of overall philosophies, but last year is dead.
And why would they? Why would they come out and be like, "Oh yeah, we're going to do so much different X, Y, and Z"? Like, you don't want to say any of that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But the other thing, Jeremy, as I'm reading this quote, and the thing that leaves some room for some nerves and some anxiousness is like, if you're calling the plays a little bit differently. If your head coach is the one who's super aggressive on 4th down, like it changes your fundamental approach to a situation, to how you're going to sequence plays.
Yeah,
right?
You're going to call 3rd down a lot differently if you know you're going to go for it on 4th down, right?
Right.
And it's fascinating to me, and that'll be an adjustment for him. He admitted it's going to be an adjustment for him, which doesn't mean, it could mean it doesn't run smoothly right away. It could mean it will. The one thing I'm sure with John Morton is that he's going to be prepared either way. Like that is the one thing that they continually talk about with John Morton is just like his obsessive compulsive ability from Monday to Saturday to just learn everything you can about every single situation, about every single opportunity, so that when Dan Campbell comes on the headset on 3rd and 1 and says, hey, just so you know, we're going for it on 4th down if you don't make it here, he's going to know what play he should be calling. He's going to know, and he's going to be prepared with a 4th down play too. Like, preparation is definitely not going to be an issue with Morton.
Well, that calms the nerves a bit. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think we're good. Are we? Do we empty out the notebook?
I think so. I do, like, I kind of want to shout out Tyler Roll because, like, I'm really excited about him too. And part of that, admittedly, was because the last tight ends coach was like the worst interview on the team, and so selfishly,
wow,
it was frustrating. He's got a great story. He's again one of those guys that it's just like, you thought he was going to be North Dakota State forever. He played there, he coached there. It was going to take a lot to pull him from there, but you know, he meets Dan Campbell at the pro day of the quarterback that went to the 49ers, Trey Lance. They meet there. He interviews for the job 3 or 4 years ago, doesn't get it, but like just hasn't like stopped thinking about Dan Campbell in that job. Like he's going back and he's watching Dan Campbell's introductory press conference and like, yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that. And then the opportunity comes the second time and he jumps at it. And it's just like, it seems like expert recruiting from Dan Campbell, expert culture building to get these guys that seem like they're career college coaches out of their comfort zone to reach the NFL level. And so I don't know, he's just like a really cool story. I don't have any insight on how he's going to be as a tight ends coach because we'll see. But I think one of the best quotes from him was, I coach with only, and this is I don't have the exact quote, so this is a slight paraphrase. I only coach with one speed, physicality.
Oh, I like that. Physicality.
That's not a speed. That's
What
not
kind
a speed
of speed
at all.
is that?
That's not a speed.
That is a very Dan Campbell-esque quote.
It really is.
It's like, what does that even mean? I don't know, but it sounds cool as hell.
But it's provocative. Gets the people moving.
That's probably why he's on the Lions now.
That's right.
I just looked up a picture of him from his playing days, and he just looks like he was destined to become a coach on Dan Campbell's staff.
He's just like a mini Dan Campbell.
Except he played running back.
Mini Dan.
But like he was a fullback though, I think too, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he also like he ran for like over 1,400 yards in one season with North Dakota
Both
State.
factors
and had like
make him
20-something
more
touchdowns.
Dan. Both factors make him more Dan. Are you kidding me?
The only thing not pictured in that picture is a neck roll. Like he had to have one of those, right?
God, look at that goatee as well. All right.
Not a visual medium, I'm sorry.
Not a visual medium. Let's get out of here before we completely go off the rails. Midweek Mailbag is back this week.
Yeah, I haven't decided on a date or time, but we'll make it happen.
Nice. Anything else we got to put out here?
Nope. First Bite will
It's
return
summertime.
as well. We took a week off with First Bite, but we'll get that going up again for you Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers.
Yeah, it's summertime. It's going to be a little bit of us trying to just kind of cruise out the heat and everything. So, you know, we have way too long of a wait for football to come back. And it sucks. It really, really sucks.
So come do it with us every week.
That's right. Next PODcast will be live on Monday as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to announce right now. I don't know if it's permanent yet, but
we might be making a shift to Mondays.
To let people behind the curtain, I have been pushing very hard at Fox Sports Radio to be an update anchor. And I did a 7-hour stint back on Tuesday, and now I think one of my bosses wants to start giving me more and more time on Sunday. So if you are out in the world anywhere between, I believe it would be 5:30 Eastern to about 8 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, you might be able to hear my voice on a Fox Sports Radio affiliate. And we will continue to do, but that's kind of why we're moving a lot of the POD stuff to Monday. So All right. Anything else, Ryan? Anything else to add?
Nope.
Well, in that case, thanks everyone. This has been the Pride of Detroit POD cast. We'll see you Starside.
Recording stopped.
Almost lost the stop record button for a second. Wow.
All right. Oops.
1949
Wait,
was a
What'd you
time
do?
of
What'd you do?
Something was playing in the background. It was very loud.
I'm gonna go home.
Yeah, I'm also gonna get out of here quite quickly here. So
Yep, same. I'm gonna go drink.
And I have no alerts to say. So yeah, we'll try to be live maybe Wednesday morning. Is that possible?
I know I've
don't
been off from Tiki Tuesday for a while too for the personal stream. Probably not going to happen this week. It's warm enough. I kind of want to really go to the beach.
There you go. So
get
yeah,
high.
follow us on Twitch and YouTube. Set up alerts so that you'll get notified because we have a little bit of an irregular schedule right now. Sign up for Pride of Detroit Direct at prideofdetroit.com/subscribe if you want more from Eric and I. Or Ryan and I as we continue to do our first bites.
Hell yeah.
And that's all I got. No special teams talk, sorry.
Sorry.
Although it was interesting to hear Dave Phipps say that like part of the reason they were so boring on kickoffs last year was because they're like, hey, we have a new kicker who's just learning to kick field goals, and so we try it like
Not going to put too much on his plate.
right. And if you saw at training camp, he tried a couple of interesting kicks and they went disastrously. So they're just like, all right, why don't you just kick it out of the end zone? That's fine.
We're gonna Lions. So what you're saying is the Lions might need to carry 2 kickers into the season, one for kickoffs, one for field goals.
He's been practicing all off season on his kickoffs. He's had a full year. We'll see. But anyways, there's your special teams talk. I got to get out of here. Ryan's got to get out of here. We all got to get out of here. So appreciate all you hanging out this, what is it, Monday evening?
It's Monday. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Enjoy the 0 sports that are happening.
Is there nothing on tonight?
No. Oh, the Tigers play tonight. Go enjoy the Tigers.
The Tigers are playing tonight. I never.